I have been a language learner and teacher for the past 5 years, and one common complaint I get from my adult students when they approach me is, I understand this language, but why can't I speak fluently? As a language enthusiast, as you can see from my previous video, I am always pushing myself out there, making sure you see my journey, making sure you see how I get fluent in the Russian language. There is a reason for that. Understanding and speaking the language are two separate things, and in this video I want to share with you the reason you understand the language and you still can't speak it fluently. In case you're in a hurry, this video is divided into two parts. The first part is to relate 5 reasons I believe you can't speak a language fluently, and if you can relate with that, you are rest assured to follow me to the next part, which are 5 beautiful steps to help you speak a language more fluently. Let's go. Welcome back. Here's a little disclaimer. I am proficient in English, Yoruba, Russian, Pidgin English, and basic knowledge of French. Now, this is not me telling you I am a polyglot or something. I know there are a plethora of people out there that speak better than I do. This video is as a result of my extensive research and also my years of experience teaching this language. I am Abraham, I am a teacher, I love to design, and I am here to relate with you. There's actually a name for this situation. We call it passive fluency. Passive fluency is a situation where you understand the language, but you find it difficult to speak it fluently. In other words, you have the good grasp of grammar, in some situations vocabulary, syntax, everything, but in the aspect or in terms of trying to express yourself, bringing together your ideas and pushing them out to people is extremely difficult for you. Why is that? Without wasting time, let's talk about reasons why you might have this problem. Reason number 1, you are the kind of person that you think about everything grammar before you push out at least one single word from your brain. For example, let's say somebody asks you, where have you been? Oh, the first thing that comes to your mind is, where have you been? So that has to be a present perfect. No, present perfect continuous. This is me using English as an example. Oh, I've been. No, that's present perfect. Subject, verb, I have. Modal verb, have. Now, the fact that you're trying to make all these calculations in your head, you should take note of something. Speaking is totally different from writing. In writing, you have enough time to settle down, think about the subject, think about the verb, think about everything to use before you compose a sentence. In speaking, the other person is right there waiting for you. There are 2 situations there. They can't be as patient as in writing, or 2, you might get them bored. So the thing is that you have to push everything out. What's the solution to this? I'll just give you a quick tip, then we jump to the next one. Don't overthink. Don't think. Just speak. I'll give a reason for that later, okay? But just speak. Do not overthink. Don't construct grammar sentences in your head. Just go. Let it flow. Reason number 2 is that you translate everything in your head before you speak. You translate everything to your native or to your official first language before you speak. This is not good enough. Let me give you an example. As a Russian learner, I can say в этой комнате 2 бутылки. The literal translation of that in English language is, in this room are 2 bottles. Now, literally translating that in your head might make it wrong in English, because in English language you actually should start it with, there are 2 bottles in this room. And this is just an example of several circumstances and situations whereby when you translate words from your language to English or from English to another language, you might have problems because languages have different structures, they have different arrangements. In Russian language or some other languages, we probably don't have auxiliary verbs. Okay, in English you say I am happy. In Russian you say я счастливый. No, я быть счастливый. So in situations like this, it is not advised to translate. Always think in the language you want to speak, not your native language, and that's it. Reason number 3, you are scared of people making fun of you, people laughing at you. Well, I think one thing I would say about this is that your ability to speak a language is not a measure of your intelligence. Your inability to speak doesn't mean you're stupid. That's just it. You should be able to come out and say, okay, this is what I understand. Look at the best player. Look at the best people in the world. Some influential people in the world don't even speak English in some situations. That's just an example. So don't gauge your inability to speak a language as a measure of your intelligence. When people laugh at you, know that it's their problem, not yours. And it's as simple as that. Reason number 4 is that you are scared when you start a conversation, it might get overly complicated. There was a time I went to the riverbank and I met with a man. During the course of our conversation, all of a sudden he went deep into the nitty-gritty of the Russian language. And I was like, oh, I told you earlier, my Russian is not that good. So in situations where people test your depth in the language you're learning, in the new language, and they try to, they see you understand, they try to go faster, they try to go into some terminologies you haven't learned. One thing I do is that I warn them beforehand and tell them, okay, this is my level. So what they do is that they try to break down terminologies as little as possible. One thing I will tell you in this situation is never to be embarrassed. Yes, you're a learner, you will get there. And remember, inability to learn or your level of language is not a level of your intelligence. It's not a measure of your intelligence. Number 5 reason for you not being able to speak again is that you have this fear of offending someone. Like somebody might get angry, you might say something that gets somebody mad at you. That is not true. Also, using the Russian language, when you want to approach somebody of the same age, you say you are beautiful. When you want to talk to somebody you should respect, you say you. It's totally different in the Russian language. I didn't know. There's a word called ty krasivaya, but the situation is that when you are to express the same phrase or sentence to somebody you are supposed to respect, ty changes to v. My first 1 year of learning Russian, I was using ty to everybody. I eventually found out that that is insulting, or let me say not right in some ways to people I should respect, that it's insulting to them. But the thing is that over the course of my 1 year speaking, using ty to people or using insulting words to people, nobody ever reacted to me because they understood I was learning the language. They understood that I might not know the nitty-gritty of the language. So don't be scared of that. People will definitely understand when you make these mistakes. And the worst that can happen is they explain to you this is wrong. And that's it. Let them explain to you and you move on with that. It's as easy as that. So let's jump to how to actually be able to express yourself and speak fluently as a learner. The first step is to go the baby style. I call it go the baby style. Why is that? Let's look at our education system. Our educational system has been focused on the input. We have 2 types of learning actually. We have the inputs and the output method of learning. Our educational system has been focused on maybe comprehension, reading texts, trying to make people understand. Read this text, okay, listen to your teacher. And the classroom structure is probably a minimum of 15 students to 1 teacher, which means in the space of 45 minutes of lesson, students might not even be able to speak for maybe more than an average of 2 minutes in that system, or probably 5 minutes. That's the most a student might speak in the classroom. But the situation is that, do you ever wonder how babies learn? Babies, you push them out to the playground, you let them go out, play with their friends, they come back, they've picked up 2 or 3 more words, they speak, and before you know it, even without teaching them grammar or some other things, they are already learning. There's a reason for that. And the reason is that the baby system of education or learning is a bit different. They are more focused on listening, and they are forced, because they are out there in their playgrounds, they are forced to speak consistently. So the lesson you can derive from this is that you should focus your learning 70% on actually what most of you guys do is that you listen to people you want to learn from, you listen to the teachers, you do a lot of comprehension, you do a lot of reading, listening, and you do not speak. Focus your learning to 70% of writing and speaking. When you listen to your favorite podcaster, listen to your teachers, read grammar, don't reduce that. You've been doing that all your life. Focus on speaking and writing. And this leads me to my second step, which is shadow practice. In everything you do, I will advise you to go after one model. By model, I mean probably a YouTube channel, probably somebody that speaks in a way you admire. Look at them, just focus on them. Look at them, watch their videos, and mimic them, repeat them. Take some phrases or just maybe cut a clip of what they've said and mimic them. Practice the way they've spoken. If they say a word this way, go that way, go that route. Just repeat what they've said. We call it shadow practicing. Practice whatever they've said, and before you know it, I call it the fake it till you make it way. Repeat what they've said, practice it. I know a student that made it this way. She went after Beyonce and she would say everything the Beyonce way. Even when she didn't, I'm talking about a 10, 11 year old kid. She didn't even understand. She was just singing, repeating the phrases and everything. All this, and by the end of the day, she's probably 12, 13 now, and the English is as good as it should be for a 13-year-old. Step 3 should be loud labeling. Loud labeling is looking at things around you as you're moving in every situation of your life. Try to think and label these things. This is one reason I love loud labeling. Loud labeling enables you to think in the language you're learning. Okay, when you're looking around, you see everything around you, you're always like, okay, this is something, this is this, this is that. You are actually forcing your brain to think in the language you are learning. When you loud label, it's trying to keep your brain consistent with the new language you're learning. Most people, when learning a new language, it's either you're learning a language in a country that doesn't speak the language, so it's usually harder for you to learn better in that country. So one thing you should do is to force your brain to consistently label stuff in the new language. The more you do that, the more you force your brain to think in that new language. And trust me, it's a good way to learn. Step 4 is to be open to feedback. How do you get feedback? Get yourself acquainted with a native speaker of that language. How do you get yourself doing this? One step is to go for native language learning apps. I do not have anyone in mind to recommend. They're all out there. Just Google language learning apps, the one you can connect with native speakers. Once you get there, find a native speaker. You don't even need an app, be it Twitter. Go to different social media platforms. Just find a friend in the language you want to learn from. Communicate with them. And if this is the worst situation, you do not have anyone, shadow practice or soliloquize. Soliloquizing means speaking to yourself. Speak to yourself, repeat words, stay in front of a mirror. Just make sure you practice. But the goal is to get the feedback. Look for somebody, find somebody that corrects your mistake. Not just correct, somebody you know the language, the level is way higher than you currently are, and try to relate with them, communicate with them, be it a few minutes or hours a day. Just make sure it's continuous. Let them see your mistakes. And that takes me to my last step, which is embrace your mistakes and be super duper consistent. When people correct your mistakes, don't take it as an offense. It's nothing bad. accept those mistakes. I have had this experience with students that when I correct their mistake, they just say, oh, okay, and they move on. No, when you're corrected, make sure you repeat using the right sentence or word, and then you can continue. Embrace those mistakes. Let them know that, okay, I made this mistake, and this is the right one. I am saying the right one, and continue. For 5 days, it's better to give 20% every day than to give 100% a day. Why am I saying this? This might be the wrong illustration, but one thing I believe is that in language learning, your 20% tend to increase or improve when you get engrossed in the language. When you give 20% today, you might want to, I want to do more. Then you might give 25% and it goes high. But when you focus on, Saturday is my learning day, and you give your 100%, that does not constitute to consistency. Consistency means that you constantly repeat and you constantly remind your brain that this is the task ahead of you, and if you agree or not, we are going to focus on this and make this work. Consistency. Never stop. Always make sure that today is better than what you were yesterday. Learning a language is fun. Don't let anything deter you. Don't be discouraged. Keep on moving. And this is probably the end of my video. If you've watched it to this moment, I urge you to please like and subscribe. It's a new channel. We're pushing hard. We're pushing hard to make it better. I am pushing hard to make it better. So like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I hope to always be better. So thank you. See you once again in my next video. Have an amazing day. Goodbye.